Welcome back to another episode of the Manifest Your Success podcast. Today we are sitting down with Bradley Lampe and Chase Gourley. They both have key roles at Aptive Environmental. Chase has been a team leader for over 5 years now, and Bradley has been a team leader for almost 3 years now, working over the summer. It's great to have both of you guys on.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, so hopping right into it, what have been your career paths as you've kind of gotten through college to the point where you're at now? Where'd you start and how'd you get to the place you're at now at Aptive?
Yeah, so before I started working for Aptive, I'll be honest, I had no clue what I wanted to do whatsoever. After graduating high school, I didn't know if I wanted to be in finance or, MIS with like computers or, working under someone. Like I really had no clue. And I feel like a ton of, the people I was hanging around, a lot of those people didn't know what they wanted to do as well. And for me, that just kind of made me anxious a little bit just because, I like knowing what I want to do. And, just not knowing that career path that I wanted to take, it just, it made me uncomfortable. It made me like super, super anxious. So, hearing about this opportunity, my brother, he ended up going out into Fort Worth and he made, really, really good money with like very little training. So, I saw that as an opportunity and I just kind of jumped the gun. And, now I know that one, I want to be in sales. I've always been kind of like an introverted person. In high school, I was a shy kid. I mean, you guys knew me. But after, talking to 30, 40, 50 people a day, it kind of changes a person, right? So, I definitely want to be in sales and, just being surrounded by, Chase and, everyone else that, I've kind of connected with. Definitely going to get into real estate, right? Just because, passive income, that's dope. But yeah, I mean, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Now I know I want to do sales and definitely get into passive income.
Yeah, I'm curious. We were kind of talking about it. Kind of already know your answer about your like opinion of college.
Yeah.
So like what was like your motivation for like going to college? Was it just because kind of like you saw everyone else going to it and you just want to have a good time, or like what was your motivation?
Yeah, so I'm not much of a party guy. I don't really like going to the bars too much. Honestly, I'd much rather stay home. Right now, I'd rather stay home and try and do productive stuff. But you pretty much, my parents, they pay for my college, right? I'm fortunate enough to where I'm not going to have to take out, a loan to pay for my college, right? So going in, I just wanted to finish it for my parents. I also, getting a degree, that's, my parents have always preached to me that you need a degree in order to, succeed, get a good job, make money, get benefits, all that sort of thing. So obviously I was going to college for that, right? But after I started working for Aptive, I kind of realized that, like, you don't need a degree, right? Like, you can do anything you want. Obviously, it's nice to have a degree because, a lot of people who are looking for employees, they won't consider someone unless they do have a degree. But with a company like Aptive, you don't need a degree. You can go out, you can work as hard as you can, and you can make a lot of money, right? It's just about, being all in, working hard, and, just kind of being dedicated to the grind. Sure.
I will say just right off the bat, you're a lot more well-spoken and articulate than you were last time I saw you, which I'm sure is a direct result of working at Aptive.
Exactly. Like I said, working 8-9 hours a day, talking to 30, 40, 50 people a day, like
On their front porch.
Yeah, on their front porch. Like, these people have no clue. You're going to knock on their door. They have no clue what you're selling. So, you have to present yourself and, like, you have to make them comfortable with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's something that, obviously I got kind of good at during the summer. I'm still working on it. Like, you can always build on everything. But, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think what that point you made about like how Aptive is like a company you can come to and you don't need a college degree. Like, I feel like we're seeing like more and more companies nowadays where they don't really care about what degree you have or like, okay, you went to college. Oh, you're automatically higher than someone who didn't go to college. Exactly. I think that's really like important in society because it's like, it's not like, oh, everyone has to go to college. Everyone has to pay all this money to go to college. So what was your like life like growing up? Did you go to college or like how did you end up at Aptive?
Yeah, so I went to college my freshman year. I went to ECU. Similar situation. Parents wanted me to go. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was studying MIS and like I was cool with it. I like systems. I have learned since college that I love systems and that's why I was drawn to MIS. But after my first summer, I didn't make a ton of money. He made way more than I did my first summer. I was not as motivated, not as mature as he was, and I only made like $6K. And that was after my freshman year, but I saw some of my leaders on my team make over 6 figures. I saw other first-year reps that just outworked me make 30 to 40K, And so I actually dropped out of ECU. I didn't go back my sophomore year, and I basically took the time that I would have been studying and just studied personal growth, read books, like did what my leader said to do, trusted that they knew what they were doing. I was 19 at the time, they're 23, 24, and they're making the kind of money I wanted to make. So I just listened to them. I worked as a server at Lucky 32 in Cary, like a nice restaurant, to just like get the experience of talking to more people. And ended up doubling my sales the second summer. Brought a couple of my friends out with me, his brother included. The four of them, they made like 10K. So like I was proud of that I helped them do that. A lot of it was my leaders because I wasn't leading my own team at that point. But I was able to make over 30K that summer, and that's when it got like real. And I was able to justify not going back to school. And so I went all in going into my third summer and recruited a full team, trained them, brought 30 guys out to Pennsylvania, and we did $1 million in revenue. And that's when I was able to like, that third summer is when I made more from the summer than what I would have made with any degree. So I don't plan on going back to school at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't if I was you either.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you were able to turn that around. Like,
Yeah.
And what did you even enjoy college? Like, or were
No.
you were just kind of like, okay, this is the perfect escape
Yeah.
route that there is.
Like I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to be like an entrepreneur. I wanted to run a business, but I didn't know what. And I feel like a lot of people our age, like 19, 20-year-old, they have that mindset and they want to do that, but they don't know like what to do. And they see all these options on social media, like, oh, you could do this, you could do that. But like at the end of the day, like you gotta learn how to grind and then pick something and like just grind at that something. And you don't really learn that in school.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable. And I think it's important that, you know, if someone does take the route of dropping out of college, it's important to like actually have a plan, right? Some people, maybe they'll drop out and they're just kind of, they don't do anything. They're like, okay, that wasn't meant for me. I'm gonna just go about my life. But you were determined, you had a plan of what you want to do and you followed through on it, which I think is so valuable. I'm curious. I know just from following you on Instagram, I know you did 75 hard.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear like how that was like, what that experience was like, and maybe what you learned from that you were able to apply to other areas of your life.
Yeah, so
And could you give like a general overview of what 75 hard is too for anyone
so
that
what
doesn't know?
75 hard is, it was made by a guy named Andy Frisella. If you've ever heard of
Real AF.
Real AF, yeah, if you've ever heard of Real AF, that's his
Pull the mic a little closer.
That's his podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
good.
his podcast that he does. And I listen to that a ton. But you know, just kind of like hearing about it from Chase, hearing about it from Andy, like it just it seemed like something hard that that I wanted to do, right? Just because after going out and working my first summer, you got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, right? Like you can't.
It's 2 workouts a day.
Yeah, 2
45
workouts a
minutes
day.
each. Yeah, run through what it is.
2 workouts a day, 45 minutes inside, 45 minutes outside. Drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages of a book. You got to stay on a diet, and I think the hardest thing for most people is not drinking alcohol, right? For me, it's not really that hard. I'm not a big drinker. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just, doing the same thing every day for 75 days and not deviating from that routine that you've kind of made for yourself. But to be honest with you guys, like I failed 75 hard like 6-7 times. It's hard, right? Like it was super hard. Like I thought it was going to be easy. I thought knocking doors was going to be like the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but doing 75 hard, it is definitely up there with knocking doors. Like it's super, super hard. Especially staying on a diet. Like I'm not the best at eating, healthy food, right? I like eating junk food. So that was definitely hard, but kind of what I learned from 75 hard is, just the routine aspect, right? Like there's this thing called decision fatigue, right? So that's one thing that I took from 75 hard and applied during the summer is, what time you're going to wake up, right? Like what you're going to eat when you wake up, what you're going to do when you wake up. So are you going to train? Or are you going to go on YouTube, right? When you're going to get out and start working, when you're going to take a lunch, when you're going to get back from working, and what you're going to do after you get back from working, right? Like those are all things that you can plan, you can write down on paper, and you don't have to think about doing them. You just do them, right? So that's definitely probably the biggest thing I took away from 75 hard is, when I went out and worked with Chase last summer in Louisville in Kentucky, I planned out when I was going to wake up. I planned what I was going to do when I woke up. I planned when I was going to be down at morning meeting. I planned when I wanted to be out on the doors. And, not having to make all those decisions, I could expend more of my mental energy on the doors, right? So like when I'm talking to someone, I could put in more effort, more mental energy overcoming objections or, pushing through smoke screens, like that's where you want to expend most of that mental energy, not on making these small decisions that you could, have already made and have down on a piece of paper. Right. But that's definitely probably the biggest thing that I took away from 75 hard. It's just the routine aspect. It helped me a ton for sure.
That's crazy. I never really thought about like the decision fatigue. I never thought about it from that. I mean, I'm big into like time management and like planning out your day. You're planning out your week.
Yeah.
I never really thought, okay, yeah, if you're really like if you're done with the task, then you really have to take the time and think, okay, what task do I do next?
Exactly.
If you don't have it already on the calendar. But when you have something on the calendar, you literally just, look at the calendar. Oh, I got to do this now. And you aren't even wasting that energy. That's fascinating that
you have only so much mental capacity in a day. And like during the summer, we're trying to make as much money as we can in 3 to 4 months. So you have to like be very careful where you're giving that mental capacity to, and it can't be making minute decisions like, what am I eating for lunch? Like I shouldn't have to think about that. I should just have lunch, and it doesn't matter. Like I eat almost the same thing every day for breakfast, lunch, because like there's just the consistency to it. That's what 75 hard teaches is the self accountability to consistency, and just like you're doing it no matter what. Like you'll wake up and be like, damn, it's 40 degrees outside. I got to go outside and run. It's like the decision's already made, though. I've committed to doing this, so you just have to do it. And being able to do that in your head on a consistent basis, then you can apply it to anything in life.
Yeah. Is this something that you guys like push on your team members, like when they join Aptive? So you were motivated because of Aptive to do 75 hard?
I had to do it first for him to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I was 10 days ahead of him when I completed,
Yeah.
Okay. What was like your biggest like reason that you guys failed, like looking back on it?
I never failed.
Oh,
He
okay.
just
Yeah,
failed.
yeah.
Then never mind. Chase,
this is
you can
my-
sit out on this one,
This
Bradley.
is where I talk. Yeah, so I can't tell you like every single time I failed. I can't tell you why I failed. I know one time, and I'm not gonna blame it on my girlfriend, but she wanted me to drink, and I was like, no, I'm on 75 hard, and she was like, come on, like we're just trying to have a good time, and I ended up drinking. So I failed
pressure.
that time. Yeah, peer pressure, exactly. I mean, that's my fault, right? Like I could have just said no. But I'd say a big reason why I would fail is either not eating the right food, right? Like I would go and get Bojangles and try and say like, no, like I can eat Bojangles, like my metabolism's good, so I'm fine. But like that's not how it works. So I failed. Definitely drinking a full gallon of water, like it's really hard. like sometimes you don't even think about it. You get halfway through the day, then you realize like, crap, I still have like over 3/4 of this gallon that I got to drink, and you start slugging. You can't get it all down by the time the day is over. So like that's definitely another reason why I failed. But I would definitely say eating the right food, drinking water, and working out's pretty easy for me just because I like working out. But yeah, definitely the diet and the water.
I think it comes down to like the preparation and the commitment. When I went into it, I was like fully prepared, like everything planned. And so again, the decision fatigue, like I knew how much water I was drinking by noon. So then I didn't have to decide to drink 3/4 of a gallon of water in 3 hours or whatever.
Yeah, see, I wasn't doing that.
So the preparation and then the commitment, like just telling yourself you're doing it, and you just gotta commit to it. And I learned that from the summer because like, July, it's like 100 degrees outside, you're knocking doors to get shit on. Like you've committed to doing it. You're not going home. So that's where I learned that from. And it was easy to then apply to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. You said, you weren't that healthy of an eater beforehand, and now you got to eat like 3 healthy meals every day for 75 days.
Yeah.
Are you still a healthy eater now, or do you kind of?
I think doing 75 hard has definitely made me aware of the food that I'm putting into my body. I'm not on 75 hard right now. At the end of this year, me, Chase, and a whole bunch of other guys are doing it again, just to kind of prepare for the summer. But yeah, I mean, whenever I go and get fast food or whenever I'm just eating something that's not like super healthy, I always think like I could be eating something better. Like I was on 75 hard last year. I was eating good food. Like I can do that in my everyday life, even if I'm not on 75 hard, and something that I was doing during the summer with one of my coworkers, Dan, was we would meal prep on Sunday before we would go out and knock doors. And, that just completely took, the thought of what I was going to eat. Like I literally had rice, chicken, steak, and vegetables every single day for lunch. And that had me satisfied all the way up until I stopped working. So, that's definitely something that I'm going to be doing next summer is, meal prepping is huge just because, going back to like decision fatigue, like you get on lunch and you're wondering what you're going to eat. Like, where am I going to go? McDonald's, like Sheets, like where's, like, what am I feeling today? But when you meal prep, like you get in your car, you have a Rubbermaid right there full of, rice, chicken, steak, and you don't even got to think about it. You just eat it. But yeah, I'm definitely a lot more aware of what I'm putting in my body now after I do 75 hard, just because like I was on it for 75 days. So it was tough.
Yeah. I've seen so many people do it. I've like passed people in the gym talking about it and stuff,
Yeah.
like doing 75 hard, and they're like, oh, this is so hard. I've never actually tried it myself, but I definitely am motivated just from hearing you guys talk about it and see how it like actually like transfers even after you finish doing it. It's not just like a one day thing where you finish and then you're done and you forget all the principles if you don't learn anything, but you can pick up so many skills, and just like the fact that you can plan and like kind of move away from that instant gratification, like going to get fast food right away. It's awesome that you guys were able to learn
I would
that.
definitely recommend doing it. Like, it's not just for like salespeople. It's for,
It's to build consistency in your life.
Exactly.
At the end of the day. Like, I don't eat fast food anymore. I definitely hesitate at those things. Like, you would think you just said the long-term gratification. Like, the long-term, there is really no long-term gratification to it. Like, at the end, you would think, like, on day 76 that you would want to go to McDonald's or something, get ice cream, whatever it is. Like, that desire is just not there. Because for, like, 75 days, you ate healthy, and your body will reject that kind of food. Now, if you, like, push through it and you keep eating, then, like, yeah, you'll eventually fall back into those habits. But it's very easy to, like, continue that. And then the long-term gratification is health and, like, being healthy, not being overweight, not dying from a heart attack, like, just general health. So it's cool because it teaches you that you don't just delay it. Like, there's not, like, a date to it. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing it for just the overall wellness of yourself.
Yeah, just experience in general.
Yeah.
And after doing it for 75 days, like, it almost feels weird going back and, like, and eating fast food. Like, you literally just ate good for 75 days, and at the 76th day when you're done, you're going to go and get fast food. Like, it feels weird. Like, I feel like for me personally, and maybe for Chase too, like, it's a lot easier to just continue that rather than just fall back on, your usual ways of, eating fast food and just not kind of thinking about what you're going to be eating. But
yeah, that's awesome. Definitely will have to try that before I die.
I feel like the hardest thing that would be for me be like, that's 2.5 months. If you go, like, I don't know, if you go on vacation or something, or if you go to like the lake or whatever, like, that would be the hardest part for me is, you still got to do those 2 workouts, those 3 healthy meals. I feel like that's the excuse that I keep making. That's why I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Like, did you guys encounter that? Did you ever go somewhere and have to, like,
pre-prepare? So we're going to start on the 29th, and I'll be going on 2 different cruises during 75 hard.
Wow. Respect.
Yeah, and
it's tough, but there's never going to be a right time.
Yeah.
Like, there just isn't. Like, the only time that would really align is the summer, and then that's just too much. But, like...
Well, that's why it's called 75 hard, because it's not supposed to be easy.
Are there gyms on cruises? They got dumbbells and stuff?
There's got to be.
That better be a priority for whatever cruise you're going on.
There's got to be.
So I'm curious, transitioning like into Aptive, since you've been here at the company longer, Aptive, could you just like describe like what Aptive is in general? Like, just as a company, if I come up to you and be like, you're wearing an Aptive shirt, I'm like, okay, what is Aptive about? Like, what do they do?
So what Aptive does is for a service is pest control. What we do as far as employees and culture and things like that, there's over 250 of us that work in North Carolina. The average age is probably 23. So we're a huge network of really just young, motivated guys. And Aptive just gives you a platform to go and sell and make money. You're just selling their services. Being here 5 years has given me the opportunity. I feel like I run my own business, and Aptive is just like what we sell. But I mean, it's a very much work hard, play hard kind of culture where during the summer we're grinding, and the off season we're trying to find good people that'll fit for our teams. I get a certain amount of spots of area. Like, I'll get an area, and then I can bring a certain amount of reps into that area. And my job is to find the best 40, 30, however many people to bring to that area and make sure that team like meshes extremely well, because that's how everyone's going to be successful. That's how the team's going to be successful. And so because of that, like, we have to create a cool culture. We have to do fun things. We have to go on retreats, trips, things like that. Because, I mean, you got to want to work here. Like, people can't hate their job. And one thing that's really cool about Aptive is I don't feel like I have bosses or managers. I just have leaders. And that's what I've been taught to do, is just be a leader. And the complexities of that go very deep. And I could talk about leadership for a while, but in doing that, like, being a leader, you actually care about the people that you're working for. Because one thing that my leader always told me, Wyatt, he always said that leaders get fired. Like they get hired and fired. So like if you have people quitting or you have people that don't work for you, that's you being a bad leader. And that's something that is taught like from the president of sales, the CEO down. So it makes for a really cool culture and a really cool company to work for.
That sounds really awesome. So what was like your first like introduction to Aptive? Like how did you come across it? Were you just, did someone walk up to you and was like, hey, I got to work for Aptive?
I was in a survey of economics at ECU, and I got an email from someone else that his fraternity brother was a team leader here. And I just started working with them that first summer. I didn't know any of them. I flew up to Philly, like met them all for the first time being there. I did a couple trainings with the team leader, and just made some really good relationships. I'm still really good friends with some of the leaders on that team, and just been running it ever since then. Yeah.
Dude, I'm curious. The answer to this might be no, but you guys are, so it's like pest control. Is there like another pest control company that also does door-to-door sales that's like your enemy or something that you guys are like competing against?
I mean, there's typically like when we go into an area, there will be other companies, and that's part of gamifying it, like the competition, the like creating a hatred towards them, wanting to beat them, steal their accounts, things like that.
It's so fun.
Yeah, so I've definitely done that with different companies, but there's no other company in the United States as big as Aptive. I mean, there's 2,300 reps that work for us in the United States. We have branches in 125 cities, and we do like $350 million in revenue a year. So like as a company, we're massive. Like my little team is like nothing in compared to the size of the whole company. So we don't really have anyone that competes on our level, but you'll get like someone that franchised like a Terminex and they knock doors or something.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like the size of the company speaks a lot about how like good the culture is, like you were saying. So I'm curious, Bradley, like when you first started, like what was your, first off, how did you get introduced to the company? And then like, what did you see about Aptive, like in its culture? Like what was it, something that you wanted to be around for?
Yeah. So how I got introduced was, my brother, his freshman year at ECU, my buddy Andrew, he was going out and working his first summer. He was going to go to Fort Worth, Texas, and he needed a few more guys to come out with him. So pretty much what he did was he went and knocked doors in his dorm, and my brother was one of the guys that he knocked on. And my brother's a very spontaneous kid, and he ended up just jumping the gun, just kind of like I did. And he sent it with like a week's worth of training. Went to Fort Worth, Texas. He made over $20,000 with a week's worth of training, which was insane to me. And Chase. So when he came back to Raleigh and he kind of like explained to me his experience and how much money he made, I just saw it as an opportunity that I couldn't pass up, right? Just because I'd never seen college kids make over $7-8 grand in a summer, right? Like I worked at Autobell Car Wash and Ace Hardware in 4 years, like all 4 years of high school. I think I made maybe $6 or $7 grand in 4 years. So seeing that he made 20 grand or over 20 grand in 3.5 months, like it just wasn't an opportunity that I was going to pass up. So I signed, I think it was in October. It may have been in like late September. I trained all off season. I went to Pennsylvania with Chase for my first summer and a couple of my other boys, and I made $24,000 my first summer, which was insane. Like I've never seen that kind of money before. It was just a crazy experience. I've never experienced anything like it. And going back to what I was saying about, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, I feel like that was kind of like the only way that I was gonna, find out what I wanted to do. I was right about that. Like working 2 summers, like I know I want to be in sales, do real estate, generate passive income. Like super grateful. But yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
man.
I feel like not only is there the benefit of like when you look at another job, like you go work for a fast food company or Autobell or a car wash, like you're making that super low money, but also like there's very little room for you to grow personally. And from what it seems like you guys kind of jumped into this because there was that personal growth aspect to it.
Exactly.
So like how important do you think it is, Bradley, to like to just surround yourself with people that are going to bring you up in life, like compared to working at Autobell?
So something that Chase and just a whole bunch of my other, people that I just look up to, they've always just kind of crammed into my head that you're like the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And obviously before I was working for Aptive, I was hanging around guys that were playing Xbox all day, going to the bars, just not really doing anything with their life. And I personally don't want to be like that. Nothing against them. I just would rather, be doing productive stuff, obviously. So, after working for Aptive, I just like after seeing the culture that that Aptive provides, with like Chase and, everyone else that I've been surrounded with. Like, I want to be like these people. Like, I want to be productive every day. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to do uncomfortable things. And that's a big reason why, I couldn't see myself leaving Aptive anytime soon. It's just because, like, even if I was making 5-10 grand in 3.5 months, which is all right money for a college student, like, there's no other place, at least I don't think there's any other place that I could go to that would have this kind of culture where they're pushing you to be better every day. They're pushing you to, learn more, put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Like, I don't know I don't know anywhere else where they would provide that sort of culture. So, I couldn't see myself leaving anytime soon, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely made the right choice. That was the right choice for you. I think, especially since you said, you used to be introverted, this was like out of your comfort zone. Maybe from when you started to where you're at now, going into your third summer.
Yeah.
What were some lessons or some strategies that you learned in terms of like door-to-door sales? Yeah,
so I've learned a ton from just being on the doors. Like, you learn so much about yourself and just about like other people. But one thing is, just kind of staying in the middle. That's something I'm still trying to improve on. Still not the best at it, but like, I'm aware of it. But pretty much what staying in the middle means is, you can go out and you can have, the best day of your life. You can go out and do, 10 sales at an average contract value of like $950. You can have a huge day, right? And then you go out the next day and you could just completely like just do awful, maybe not even make a sale. And the thing is, like, you don't get super high on those good days, right? Like, you don't get super excited when you go out, you do super good, you come back to the apartments and you're like, dude, I just had the best day of my life. Like, I'm on a high right now, right? Like, you just don't do that. Because, like I said, you can go out the next day, you do super bad, and then you're super low, right? Like, the law of averages means everything's going to average out, right? So, like, I do 10 one day, I do 0 the next day, then maybe I do 3 or 4. Like, everything's going to average out. So it's not worth getting stressed out about if you have a bad day, right? It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And that's just kind of what I'm trying to focus on this next upcoming summer, because I have pretty big goals. I know there's going to be good days, I know there's going to be bad days, and I know there's going to be average days. And, just kind of staying in the middle is something that's going to help me a ton. But I would definitely say just kind of being all in too. Like, there's no point in doing any sort of sales or door-to-door sales if you're not completely, committed and dedicated to your goals. I've seen guys come out and work that I thought were going to do super, super well. Like, they just seemed like, the kind of person that would excel doing this kind of job. And, they went through the first couple weeks and they found out it was pretty hard, and, they just stopped trying as hard. And that kind of led to their downfall. So, being all in, it's probably one of the most important things that you can do when you come into this job. Like, if you're going to do it, you got to train every day. You got to be committed to your goals and just try your best. And, things are going to work out eventually, whether it takes 2 years, 3 years, 1 year. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as you're working hard, you're going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. I love what you said about like having really high days, and then you also have really low days, and you can't like let your emotions like take control of you and be like, oh, I did super good and super bad, because at the end of the day, it all averages out, like you said. I think that's such an important point.
Exactly.
I'm curious, Chase, do you remember like your first time you went up and knocked on someone's door to make a sale?
I don't remember like the first door I knocked, but I remember the first sale I made and
okay,
the first
could
day.
you tell that story like as much as you remember?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a long day. That morning I shadowed my team leader. They don't just throw us to the wolves, so I like watched him make a couple sales, like followed him around like a little puppy in the morning. And then he just like dropped me off in an area, and I got shit on all day. And I definitely was like questioning if I was supposed to be doing it, like questioning my training, questioning the words I was saying, because at first you really just have like a script that you're trying to just get it out. Like, you're trying to just get the words out, and then the like critiquing it, making sure everything, your nonverbals, all of that are on point, like come later. And that first day, like, it was just terrible. But like finally at like 6, 7 p.m., I sold this lady, and funny enough, she like barely spoke English. She was Chinese. She was probably 60, 70 years old. She just had a ton of bugs. And like, I showed her like knocked on the door. Whenever there's someone that may not have the best English, they want you to go away because they can't talk to you. So a lot of times they'll just say no English or whatever. And I just like showed her a picture of bugs. And I was like, bugs, like we're doing it for cheap. And she like opened up, let me come inside, signed her up like on a really good contract. And it was just crazy to me that my first day, like I didn't need any of the words. I didn't need the pitch that I'd just been studying for like 2 months. Like none of it mattered. It was just like having the interaction and like being positive and like not letting her say like no English deter me. Like I just kept trying. And then I went to her neighbor and ended up switching her neighbor over from another company.
It's awesome.
So I had like ended up having a solid first day. Like all day it was like absolutely terrible. And then by the end of the night I had 2. But then I don't think I did 2 again in another day for like 2 weeks.
That's crazy. That's crazy how simple it was to make your first sale. You literally took a picture and like, look, this is a problem, and I'm gonna fix it. And that's really all it was.
Exactly. Door-to-door sales is intimidating, but at the end of the day, like people have bugs, and in 2022, like there's not a lot of social interaction. So if you can knock on someone's door with the correct attitude, and you can get them to open up, and you can brighten their day a little bit, they're gonna listen to you, and those are the people that you're gonna sell. When everyone's just looking at a screen, looking on their phone, and then someone knocks on their door, like they're not expecting a human interaction. They're not expecting that. And if they're going into it thinking it's going to be negative because you're a salesperson, and if they come out of it positive, then that's a win. And a lot of times you'll make some money because of it.
100%.
So what do you think about your first sale? Like how much, what did you learn? I mean, he kind of touched on a lot there about sales.
Yeah, he did. I do remember my first sale. I won't count the first sale that I made. It was with my brother. I literally blanked like halfway through the pitch. I was just like, what do I say? I had done all this training. I trained for like 6-7 months. Like I knew the script, but I'm an introvert. I was an introverted person at the time when I got on the doors. And when I pitched my first person, I was just like completely thrown off. Right. But, after I got done shadowing my brother, I do think I went a few days without getting a sale. It was definitely tough for me. Like kind of like what Chase said, I did contemplate like, is this for me? Like, it was super, super hard. But the first legit sale that I made, I went up, I knocked on this lady's door. She came out. She was like, so she was an owl, which means she had a whole bunch of different questions, questions that I didn't know the answers to necessarily. But I ended up talking to her for like 30-45 minutes. She took me around her whole house. She showed me where she was getting the ants, showed me where she was getting the spiders. And I ended up signing her up on like a really, really good contract. I think it was like over $1,000, which I was stoked about. But long story short, she didn't end up getting done. She canceled. For some reason, I'm not too sure what it was, but definitely getting that first sale, it definitely it's not about the words. It's just about, people buy because of the person, not because of the product, right? Obviously, obviously someone's not going to buy if they're not seeing any bugs, right? But if you can make it make sense to them and you can kind of like mirror them almost, then you have a pretty good chance of selling.
Lots
them.
of people will buy if they're not seeing bugs. What are you talking about?
I mean, I mean that's true too.
I think that's such an important thing is that people will buy because of the person, not the product. And you see that in like every aspect of life. If there's a company that has a game-changing invention or innovation or something, but maybe the founder, the executives or something, maybe they're just not following through on what they should be, the company's going to fail. It doesn't matter how good it is what they're selling. It matters like how the people leading it are doing it.
100%.
So I'm curious, I guess, if you're kind of a new person coming into Aptive and you're going out of your comfort zone, like you said, you're going to get rejected over and over again at first. Maybe if I signed up, I saw the retreats that you guys offer, and I'm excited. I'm coming into my first week. What advice would you give me or someone that just joined Aptive to really succeed and not give up? I guess
I'm gonna let Chase answer this, and then I'll kind of add on.
Just trust the process. Everything's a process. Like, you're gonna struggle. It's gonna happen. Know that. Like, accept that, and just have the mindset to figure out how to get better. If you can trust the process and just listen to your leader, whoever that is, then it'll work out. Like, if you're a leader at Aptive, you've sold a lot of pest control accounts. You know how to do it. And that's one thing I respect about this company is there's not people with like a leadership title that haven't earned it. And so just trust them. Trust the process. It works. There's so many testimonies to it working. I mean, I could just in like people I've worked with, I've had reps not sell an account for the first 2 weeks and then pop off week 3. I've had one rep who for the first 3 months only did 10K in revenue each month. So May did 10K. By the end of July, he was at 30K. And then the first 2 weeks of August, he did another 30K. So just trusting the process and getting obsessed with figuring out how to get better. The retreats and stuff are there to motivate you. It's not to get you to come work for us. They're there so you can earn them. We do a lot of cool stuff. So when you put the work in, you're rewarded for it outside of just pay. But if you just trust the process, that's honestly the only advice I would give. Just trust the process.
Have anything to add, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, never be satisfied, because you can go out and you can have a huge day, or not even a huge day. You can go out and do like 3 or 4 accounts and be like, okay, I'm good for the day.
Why not 5?
Yeah, exactly. Like the more like it's all about how hard you work, right? Like if you're satisfied with getting 2-3 sales a day, you're probably not going to get 2-3 sales a day. You're probably going to do, I mean, it varies, right? But like if you're just motivated to work as hard as you can, never be satisfied, you get a sale, you forget about it, you go to the next door and you try your hardest on that door, then it's going to work out. Just never be satisfied, always hungry.
That's awesome. I'm curious, have you guys seen like Aptive? It seems like it's clearly showed success for both of you guys making sales, like all these techniques like psychology and just connecting with people, showing people a problem and saying that you can fix it. Have you seen any of those like principles applied to something outside of Aptive, like maybe in your personal life or like in relationships with other people?
Yeah, I mean, life is persuasion. Like whenever you're networking, whenever you're talking to people, how you present yourself is everything. And I mean, I could give thousands of examples where I've just used persuasion to get what I want, whether it's out of a lease, get money back from something, like negotiate, barter, like whatever it is, like it's all the same. After my first summer, I remember going into a job interview and just like smiling and head nodding and using the premises that I learned at Aptive, and I felt like I sold myself to get the job. I feel like just being able to communicate effectively is what makes you come off confident. And I mean, people like confident people. Like no one's gonna hire you if you can't go into a job interview confidently and sound successful. Like they're not gonna even consider you.
That's a good point. Confidence is huge.
Yeah, in an example, I can't think of any personal examples. I know there's a ton of them. I'm just kind of blanking right now. But one that does really stick out to me is last off season before we went to Kentucky, one of my boys that I was working with, he wanted to get a job. He wanted to get a job just to kind of like take up some time, make a little bit of extra money before the summer started. And he was kind of interested in car sales, and he had never done car sales before. He had just done door-to-door. So he pretty much called, I think it was like 6 or 7 different dealerships. He got an interview with one of the dealerships. He went in, and 10 minutes after he had that interview, he had his own office, right? Like he had never done car sales before. He was just a door-to-door guy, yet he used the experience and the knowledge that he got from the doors to go and get a completely different job that he'd never done before in his own office too, right? Like it was cool to see. Like I honestly didn't expect him to go in and just like that, like office, like he's ready to go the next day, start working, start selling cars. Like it just showed me that like this job offers a lot more than just like on the door experience. It's like it applies to literally all aspects of your life, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah. I think one of the topics that we haven't really got, you mentioned leadership. Mm-hmm. I think like leadership and management are 2 different terms, and I think a lot of people kind of blend the 2. So I'm curious, Chase, like how would you define management and leadership, and which one do you think is more important?
Leadership is 100% more important. So management, there's like any kind of management, leadership, any system, any organization, there's going to be systems in place for the people. A manager just manages those systems. Like their job is to make sure the systems run, make sure they're running effectively, and maybe look for ways to make them better. That's a manager's job. A leader's job is to actually be a part of the system and push the system forward. Like be in the system, actually doing the processes and elevating that system. I think management can only take a company so far. Like you have to have leaders. I think leadership is in short right now. And a lot of young people don't learn about it. There's a bunch of management classes. Like I remember at ECU, I took tons of management classes. I went to Wake Tech when I was in high school, like dual enrollment, took management classes, but there's no like real leadership classes. And leadership is just proving it, like showing people it can be done. I can't expect him to go out and sell 150K in revenue, $150,000 worth of pest control in a summer if I didn't do it. And being a leader is more of a relationship to where, like, me and him are really good friends now. When we first started working together, we didn't get along. We weren't friends. And now we're best friends. Travel, done so much together, had so many experiences that I don't have to manage him. Like, I'm his friend now. And sure, I'm his leader as well, but I can go to him when he's messing up and, like, say something and, quote unquote, manage him. But it's not a role. Like, it's just a relationship. I think that to just be better in life, if you just study leadership, whether you have people or not that follow you, you'll learn how to just lead yourself. And that's a big part of it, is you can't lead other people until you're leading yourself. Like, my guys have to look at me and want to live the life I live. They want the results that I have, and that's what's going to inspire them to actually go and do the job. You've probably heard that, like, leaders inspire, managers they just manage. So that's really the biggest difference.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I think those are both like two really important things that just all around make you a better leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've kind of gone through exactly who you're leading are going through, they'll respect you. They'll say, hey, I should probably listen to this person. And if, you're forming a meaningful relationship, that, like, they won't resent you. You see a lot of bosses who treat their employees terribly, and, they don't want to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
They spend their whole career just resenting the boss. But, if you form that relationship, you're all around going to be a better leader, and they'll follow you through whatever you lead them through.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And just setting a good example. Like, I'll outwork my guys. And, like, a lot of people resent their boss because they feel like they do all the work or whatever it is. But, like, I'll outwork every single one of my guys and, like, tell them and, like, make sure they know. And not, like, as a spite thing, but as, like, a keep up. Like, I make more money than you, Like, I don't have to worry about money as much as you do. Why am I working harder than you, right? Like,
it's about leading from the front.
Yeah.
If you don't lead from the front, then your guys are not going to work.
Yeah.
They just won't.
What are some principles that you guys, or, like, practices that you've done to really, like, teach your younger people that are coming in, and, like, it's not a matter of, like, giving you the fish and, like, here's the fish, or, like, telling you exactly what to say. How do you actually turn it into them actually casting the rod and getting the fish themselves, if that makes sense?
I mean, I have a lot of systems in place that I use for, like, different aspects of leadership, whether it comes to training, recruiting, leading during the summer, and really just, like, teaching them the system and then letting them do it. Like, you learn through experience. So, and just giving them the tools to actually do it. Like, if like, Brad wants to lead, so we got to get him reps to lead, right? So how do we do lead generation? I teach him that. I show him how to do it. He goes and does it. He learns how to do it. Now he can do that on his own. It's like, okay, now we get a lead. What do we do with it? And then I teach him that. I teach him a system that works so that he can do it on his own. And eventually he'll be self-sustaining. And that's how you grow as a leader, is just, there's levels of leadership. I study John Maxwell a lot. I don't know if you know who that is. John Maxwell, he's a leadership coach. He's been doing leadership, sales, all that for 40 years. He's hundreds of books. He has 5 levels of leadership. And the fourth level is when you're creating leaders. And that's how organizations grow, and you can actually teach leadership, because it's just a system. And if you can systemize anything and make it a process, then you can teach it. That's what sales is. It's what communication is, leadership, systems.
That's awesome. I'm really fascinated by, like, the whole idea of leadership. And I have an internship with Chick-fil-A actually over the summer, and they're actually doing a whole internship program. It's all about leadership, and they just practice those principles of, like, okay, you're not coming here to be an employee and to just go through the process and learn how to do it just to get paid. We're trying to bring you here to be a leader. And I think it's something that I really see a lot of familiarity with Aptive and Chick-fil-A. And I really didn't know. I just wanted to share that experience because, like, when I saw Chick-fil-A and, like, I'm like, okay, it's just a fast food place.
Yeah.
How much can it really, like, be influential, like, on a person's life? But they talk about a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about now, which I think is awesome.
That's
that you guys are
interesting.
doing.
Yeah. Chick-fil-A is a really cool organization, from what I've heard.
Yeah, they have a lot of good people. I know I know someone that drives trucks for a living, and they're just super nice to him when he's just a truck driver. And I'm just like, what? That's insane. Like, I didn't know the respect would be that, like, symbiotic.
Yeah.
If you look at any company that's pushing the needle in their industry, whether it's Chick-fil-A, Apple, Aptive, I mean, like, Aptive's only 7 years old as a company, and we're now the 3rd largest pest control company in America. Like, we're coming up on companies that have been around for hundreds of years. So, like, any company like that, I use Apple as an example. I mean, Chick-fil-A, they're changing it with fast food. It's because they have good leadership, and they are able to develop, and they're not just managing. there's a really this is in one of the John Maxwell books we're going through. We go through them as leaders together, like the workbooks, and it talks about McDonald's and how the founding brothers that founded McDonald's, they only grew it to like 3 locations, but they had a lid on their leadership, and then someone bought them out and created McDonald's to what it is today. And so like it wasn't the original people, and so any company that's really like pushing the needle, they have to have that next level of leadership. If you're just managing your people, they don't want to stay. Like they're looking for other jobs. They're looking for mentors. They're looking for places that they want to work and they're passionate about. And like, if you can't be passionate about like the chicken sandwich, then like you're not going to have the best. But like, I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just like picking something and like trusting the process, just like whatever it is, whatever industry you're in, just like strive to be the best at that. And that's something that Andy Frisella preaches a lot. Like, even if you do just work at McDonald's, like, be the best person at making fries. And then, like, 2 months, you'll be a manager. And then, like, be the best manager you can. Next thing you know, you're a GM and they make, like, 6 figures. And it's just, like, whatever it is you're doing, pick it and just, like, follow a good leader. And I think, yeah, Chick-fil-A, Apple, all these, like, big companies, they have to have good leadership.
That's fascinating. I'm curious, like, what do you guys, Brad, we'll start with you. Like, what is your plan? Like, you kind of touched on already, like, you don't see yourself leaving Aptive.
Yeah.
So do you plan on, like, just working up and just trying to being as influential as you can in the company?
Yeah.
Or do you plan on moving on and building on something yourself?
Yeah, so I definitely plan, like I said earlier, I definitely plan on sticking with Aptive for a little bit. Obviously I can't tell the future, so, something could happen down the road and I could go and work a completely different job. I have no clue. But I first want to focus on, mastering everything that Aptive has to offer, right? So obviously sales, you can always get better at sales. Just training every day and, doing the best I can during the summer. That's how I'm going to kind of master or try and master sales. But kind of like the next step for me is, I want to lead my own team kind of like Chase's. That's kind of what we're working on right now is getting me reps. And then after I get reps, I need to start learning how to train them and, kind of preparing them for the summer. And, there's a whole bunch of different steps that I'm going to have to take in order to get to that, to leading my own team, obviously. But yeah, I could definitely see myself working for Aptive for, 5, 10, 15 years. If I play my cards right, all I got to do is just work as hard as I can. And like I said, things are going to kind of fall into place. But, I don't, knocking doors, it's fun, but it's not fun. Right. So like, I'm not like super ecstatic about going out, working 10 hours a day and knocking doors. Like, it's not like the most enjoyable thing. But, just seeing how good, like some of these guys that have been working for 5, 10, 11 years, or Aptive's only been around for 7 years, but like just working for a long time, right? Like you can be super successful with sales and you don't have to just do sales, right? So you can take the money that you earn from door to door, whether it's with Aptive or with any other company, and you can put that money into things like real estate. And that's kind of where I'm going, right? Like I'm going to continue to knock doors so I can make X amount of money so that I can go and put a down payment on a property as soon as I get out of college. Like, there's not a lot of kids that can, or college kids that can say, hey, I just graduated college. Now I'm going to go put a down payment on a property. Like, there's not a lot of kids that can say that. So, yeah, if I just keep working at it, keep going as hard as I can, I think I could get pretty high up in Aptive. And then, I have goals of, getting, I think it's, one of my goals is getting 5 real estate properties by the time I'm 25. And then by the time I'm 30, I want to have 10. And by the time I'm 35, I want to have 20. Like, the money's great too, but there's also like connections within Aptive. Like one of our bosses, Damon, how many properties does he own right now? Like over 100. Yeah, over 100 properties. And he also manages properties too, right? Or does he have a company that
he has
does
like 5
that?
or 6 companies.
Yeah. So sticking with Aptive, yeah, I'm going to make great money, but I'm also going to have these connections that can put me in places other than just door-to-door sales, like real estate or, anything else that I desire. Like, there's going to be someone who's doing it.
That's
so
awesome.
I plan on sticking with it for a while.
I think that's so valuable to have the mindset that, if you stick to something, you put your mind to it, everything else is going to fall into place, right?
Exactly.
You set those goals and you work your ass off, like eventually your goals will come true. Whereas, you see the other side of that, people might, say, oh, I really want to be a professional soccer player or something like that.
Yeah.
And they don't set those goals. They don't hold themselves accountable, and they're like, why am I not a pro soccer player yet? Like, this is what I want to do. But, if you have the mindset and you set the goals, it'll happen.
And that's another thing is that at Aptive, like, everyone's holding you accountable. Like, everyone, when I was in Kentucky, everyone was holding me accountable, whether I had a good day or a bad day. Like, did you work the hours today? How many doors did you knock? How many people did you talk to? Like, they don't ask you how many sales you got because they can obviously see. But, that's just such a cool thing about Aptive is that you can go out and have a bad day, then you can come back and your whole team's going to be there. You can go to anyone and you can take what they say and apply it to the next day. All you can do is just, work on the things that you're struggling with, and you'll only keep getting better at them.
That's awesome. Okay, so we ask every guest that we had on, we ask them this one question, and we'll start with you, Chase.
Okay.
What is one goal that you have in your life? It could be like something with Aptive, like in your career, or it could be something outside, like personal or family, or something really specific and tangible. What is one goal that you have, and what are you doing to achieve that goal?
Is there a timeline for it, or just
any
in general?
Broad as you want it to be, or as specific as you want it to be?
So there's 5 specific places that I want to travel before I have kids, and I'm going to go to each one of those places in the next 5 years.
Okay, let's hear them.
So the plan for this fall is going to be like the Mediterranean area, like Greece, Italy, that whole general area. Following year is going to be Japan. Following year is going to be Australia. Following year is going to be Northern Europe. And then probably going to have to do another trip to Hawaii.
That's a solid list right there.
That's big.
5, and that's planned like with my girlfriend. That's like the 5 trips that we want to do together before we start settling down more.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of like a short-term goal.
I love it. Well, how about you, Brad?
Yeah, so this is probably like a pretty long-term goal. It's nothing like obviously I want to own real estate properties and I want to get like really high up in Aptive. Like that would be great. But after working for a few summers, like I realized my true potential when I worked my first and my second summer. Like I realized that just like my potential is up here, and I thought it was down here before I started working for Aptive. And I have a feeling that a lot of other college kids are thinking the same way. Like they don't realize their true potential. And that's something that we're kind of working on right now is like getting me reps so that we can show them their true potential. Right. So I guess kind of a goal for me would be just helping other young kids that don't know exactly what they want to do or don't know their true potential, help them see that and help them become financially stable so that they can kind of like jumpstart their life as soon as they get out of college, right? Because that's kind of what Aptive has done for me. My eyes are, like I'm a lot more aware of what I want to do now. And, helping other, young students do that, it would bring fulfillment for sure.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome that, you can recognize how you've benefited from this and you want to be able to help other people benefit the same way. I feel like that's so valuable. So I guess last kind of thing is before we sign off, do you guys have any recommendations? It could be like a person, a book, a YouTube channel, anything like that you feel like someone listening needs to read or listen to or anything like that? Or
anything you just want to leave, like a message that you guys have.
Yeah.
So a book that I always recommend, it's what started my personal growth journey. It was one of the first like self-development books I read that I actually related to and liked. It's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. I've read all of his book, but that book like started my personal growth journey. I've since like paid for his courses, gone through all of that. As far as like anything to just say, just like pick something and just go all in and just trust the process of whatever you're doing, stay committed, and look up 5 years and then decide if it was worth it or not. With my career here, like the first 3 years in hindsight probably wasn't worth it. Like the amount of hours and effort and mental energy I was putting into it versus the amount of money I was making probably wasn't worth it. But after 5 years of doing this, I'm able to look up and look back and just be extremely grateful that I did just keep my head down and grind. And whatever you're doing, I recommend just do the same. Like don't judge it in the moment, judge it after 5 or 6 or 7 years of grinding at something.
Exactly. And what I would say, this is pretty small, but, I've never been a big reader. I would definitely say just, like, read books, man. Like, that's, I know it's a pretty small thing, But I've never been big on reading books. But once I started reading all these books, whether it's mental toughness or anything like that, like you learn a ton, right? And also listening to podcasts too. Like that's not something that I would do. I would just listen to music in the car. But every time I'm in the car now, I just turn on a podcast and I'm always learning something new. But I guess the last thing I would say is probably just kind of like what Chase said. Go all in with whatever you're doing. What's the worst that can happen? I would say accept failure, right? Failure is a good thing. If you're not failing, then you're not trying, right? That's probably one of the biggest things. But,
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, we appreciate you guys. You guys are doing wonderful things at Aptive, and I wish you guys all the best. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us.